I'll start talking when it's live or when it says it's live.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Want to turn your phone down, Chelsey?
Yep. There we go.
Awesome. It's so good to see you guys live here. Chelsey and I are so excited to talk to you about this topic that we've just felt it on our hearts to share with you all. And we'll share a little bit more on our journey of how we met, what that relationship looks like, and how we came to this place over the next several weeks. And so really, this is a place for intuition and faith talks. And we came up with that name very intentionally. It's a way for us to share, and bring the word out to renew your purposeful pathway to heartfelt healing. And that can look like many, many things, but our purpose is really just to bring awareness to the importance of having a connection to something bigger than ourselves as we focus on our lives. Whether you call it something else or God or the Holy Spirit, there's something bigger than you. And we've come to realize that, and we've come to, seek this pathway, a safe space where people can talk about these things without fear or judgment or stigmatization, without fear of being told they're wrong, and truly embodying Christ, who spent his life teaching these things: unconditional love, acceptance, gratitude, patience, kindness, inquisition, being curious, like the parables, as well as leaving judgment up to God. So we wanted to create this safe place, not only for ourselves, but for others, so that we could come talk about this, because you're going to hear our backstory of the religions that we came from, the religions that we practice now, and what that looks like. And Chelsey's going to share here how we both have different stories and journeys, as do you. Go ahead, Chelsey.
So we felt very called to create this space to share. One of the things that I found in my practice with clients, and knowing Helen's experience as well a bit here, it's a really hard topic to talk about religion, to talk about spirituality, to talk about our faith, and to talk about our intuition, because we're so scared of being judged by other people and being told that what we believe, what we think, what we feel is wrong. So one of our main missions and visions is to add value to your experience and to hear the experience of other people, so we can open our awareness and open ourselves up to the possibility that there are different ways, there's different approaches and different processes that work to help really connect ourselves with that higher consciousness, with that higher wisdom, with that divine, with God, and finding that through ourselves. So through this process, we really ask and encourage you to engage as a way for you to learn, but also as a way for us and for everyone else that's watching to grow throughout the journey, and doing it together as a collective. We're very open, both Helen and I, and we want to hear your stories. We're open books. We're willing to share ours in whatever capacity this brings us, and we want to know how you experience these things in your life. So please feel safe. Know that you're not in a space where you're going to be judged. Everything's accepted here. We want you to engage and put the things out there in the comments, because chances are, if you have a question, if you have a thought, there's somebody else that's watching this, or there's somebody else that's going to see this on a replay that has those same questions and those same comments. And it's so validating to see other people that feel the same, think the same, even if we don't think the same, seeing the differences and finding that place of unity where we can still love and accept each other, regardless of the differences in our belief systems. We ask that you will comment out of curiosity, and we'll do our best to use our own intuition and our faith to support you in finding the answers to any of the questions that you do have. Whether Helen or I ourselves have answers, we will help navigate you towards the answer if we don't have it within ourselves. So with that being said, we'll kick this off by, Helen, what is a time in your life where you felt like you were doing all of the things, but there was still something missing in your life?
It was probably in my early 20s. I have always been someone who's been successful. I've had an amazing, amazing life. I've had supportive people in my life that loved me and encouraged me that I could do whatever I wanted in a space of full dream capacity, right? And so I had this love and support all my life. I was successful. I got good grades in school. I was going to school to be a nurse. I got married young. We were building a house. Like everything that I thought that, society told me I needed to do, I was doing. And there was still something missing. I was doing all the things, like all the things I should do, right? I was like exercising, I was reading, I was working, I was, partying, I was the social butterfly, I did all of the sports in high school, but it always felt like something was missing. And when I tried to go on to the next step of having a child and that didn't work, I became a very angry and bitter person. Like I was frustrated. I was mad. I remember being in the doctor's office and telling him, I don't care if you get me pregnant, someone needs to get me pregnant. And at that point in the conversation, he hands me a card for a psychiatrist. Of course, my ego was so involved in my life that I thought he was the quack. I thought he was crazy. So I never pursued that. I ended up having a child successfully and then two more. But after my second one, I kind of had this loss of identity. I had this, like, I'm now a mother. And while I love that fully, there was still something that was missing. My ego was still in the way. I really stepped forward from a place of like, I'm better than everyone, right? Like, even though I loved people and I was thought I was being very grateful, I was looking down and judging, and it was coming from a very yucky place that I wasn't even able to see it. I didn't even know I was hurting so many people, including myself. And so it really just felt like something was missing. And I was just always like, on to the next thing, right? Like, what's next? What's going to fill the void? What's going to make me happy? And I remember so many times my husband saying, will you ever be happy? And I'm just like, and of course, like looking back now, I'm like, oh, like I just, of course, then it would turn into a fight and I was angry at him because like, how dare you say that? Of course I'm happy. It was very just surface level. And while I had my religion, I really blamed my faith or that void or lack thereof on the church or the priest or the community. Like I was quite a victim. Even though I had all the things inside, I was acting like a victim. Like I was really stuck in these circumstances. And so that was probably the time in my life when I just felt like so much was missing. And that's the time when I decided to start working on myself by joining an accountability group. I think it's so interesting that we both started as Beachbody coaches, which is how our journey began as far as coaching and investing in ourselves first. So I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And we didn't even know each other back then. We just met this February, or no, was it this February? It's like we've known each other forever. But that's where it started. And there's so much that has transpired between then and now, over the last 6 to 8 years that have just been so powerful and so life-giving that's why I do what I do, because it's important to me. And there are still times where I struggle with my ego and judgment and thinking that I'm better than people. And I now have the tools to humble myself and come back to that humility so that I can just feel most authentic versus once again, searching for something else, trying something new, trying to fix it, like just chasing versus experiencing the miracles every single day. And I just got chills when I said that because it's amazing. And I want to help everyone do this. I know it's not possible for me to help everyone. I know it's not possible for me to drag people, but that's really a time in my life where I felt I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, but something was still missing. I was also kind of like an alter ego, because while I did all the things, again, I was doing things that spoke against it or didn't match with my values, right? I was drinking a lot when I said I would not. I was not being truthful or faithful to people. And this started back in high school, right? It was kind of a fun game for me because I could hide it. I was really good at it, or I thought I was. People are probably like, we knew what you were doing. But it was almost like a game, like how much can I get away from with the devil in my life and still make it look like I'm better than you?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I've ever said that out loud like that.
And that's why, because there's so much truth to that, and really acknowledging that in yourself, it's one of the most powerful things, because we all have that. We all have that ego that is just an ugly, not nice part of us, and it just clashes with us all of the time, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chelsey, tell me, when was a time in your life where you felt like you were doing all the things, maybe you have similar pieces of your story or totally different, and it's amazing, but something for you was still missing?
So, like you, in my younger years, I was good at school. Up until about middle school, I was a social butterfly. There was times in my life where I sat literally next to the teacher's desk because I talked so much and she couldn't keep me from talking to everyone. So I've always had this like intense love for humans. Just I love people. I love people so much. But in loving people, I didn't love myself. I had no self-love, and it really came to a head two very critical points in my life. Then one in my adolescent years, and I got involved with drugs. I got involved with alcohol. I struggled with promiscuity. I was completely lost. I spent time in inpatient treatment centers, and there was help available to me, but I couldn't grasp it. I did the things that I was supposed to. I did the programs, I listened to the instructions, I did the assignments, but I didn't actually do them. I did it I know I just have to, say these things and I can slide my way through. So I experienced that. And then I had my first child, and then I ended up having my two more children. And with my third pregnancy, I was married at the time, and before that pregnancy, I had my middle child, I had a miscarriage, and then I was pregnant again. And that all happened in a 9-month span. So my hormones went up and down, pregnancy, loss, pregnancy. And in that final pregnancy, I got pregnant because I didn't want my last experience of pregnancy to be one that was filled with so much pain. And I was adamant, like, I'm going to remember pregnancy well, and I'm going to love it. So I got pregnant again. And in that pregnancy, I wasn't happy. I was absolutely miserable. I lost all self-respect. I lost all of my will to live. I lost my desire. At one point, I didn't even want to be pregnant. I didn't want to do any of it anymore. I was at that cusp where I was really contemplating, like, how do I get out of this? I don't want to live this life anymore. And in that time, my marriage was really crumbling. It was falling apart. And my husband at the time, he looked at me and he said, either you get help or I'm leaving, and the kids are coming with, because you're not in the state to take care of them. And it destroyed me in that moment, because even though I didn't want to be living, I didn't want to lose my children either. I had that undying love for them that I couldn't have for myself. So in that last ditch effort, I got involved with counseling for, the last time of my life, is what I told myself. And I said, if this doesn't work, I'm not doing anything again. I'm done. I've seen counselors, I've seen therapists, I've done all of the things. And if this doesn't work, then I'm just broken and it's not going to happen. I had no faith. I had absolutely no faith in God. I had no belief in God. I had no connection to a higher power, a higher source, anything. I truly at that time felt like it was just me against the world. And that counselor, she kind of flipped my tables upside down. She was the first person that made sense to me of why I was the way I was, who I was. At that point, I didn't have any idea of what the term complex trauma was. but she encouraged me to read a book, which I encourage everybody if they're struggling with childhood problems to read The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. It's gonna turn your life around. That book took me 6 months to get through, 6 to 9 months, I believe it was 6, but I had to keep stopping and I had to keep rereading and I had to keep going back because every time I read it, there's, PTS flashbacks, memories coming to the surface. And I'm just like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know I don't even remember these events happening, but I can see it in my mind. I can feel it in my body. I know it's true. And it got to the point where, I was doing really good. Things were starting to turn around. And I remember going into my last counseling session and she looked at me and she said, you've graduated. You've done everything that I can. And the next step is, I want you to try hypnotherapy. And I did that. I did the hypnotherapy. And in one of my first hypnotherapy sessions, I very vividly recall going back to this space in my mind with a beach. And I'm probably going to get emotional talking about this because it's so paradoxical to the entire journey. And the first time I experienced it, it's just this beach. And as I know it now, it's so much bigger than just a beach. It's everything around me all of the time. But in that memory, Jesus was there and I'm just like, what is this? Like, why are you here? I don't even believe in you. Why are you showing up? Like literally no belief at all. And it broke me in the way I needed to be broke. It humbled me because before that, I was so ego-ridden and power-driven, and there was no room for humility or humbleness in my life because, dang it, I need to be strong because nobody's strong for me. So I've got to be strong for myself. And having that experience where, you can see him, you can feel him and really, truly feel him. I felt him holding my hands. I could hear what he was saying to me. And I was just baffled by it. It didn't make sense. It did not make sense at all. And the things he was telling me and speaking so much love into me as a person and telling me these things, even though I could hear it, I still couldn't believe it because it didn't make sense. I never had anybody speak so much love into my essence and into my being. And all I could think is, this is how you talk to other people. This is literally how you show up for other people. And now you have the person showing up for you in that way. And you're resisting it because you don't believe it's real, because it's not in human form. It's not in a 3D dense matter physical existence. And with that, it awakened things in me that they're hard to explain. And as time went on, I continued doing the things, I continued working, I joined, Beachbody. And when I was a Beachbody coach, again, it was a facade. It was a mask I put on of, let me show you how glorious and wonderful and happy I am and how good my life is. And, there were moments where things were really good. I didn't mask all of it. It wasn't all they had, but there was, I was lonely. I was empty and I was trying to fill that void. I became literally addicted to exercising in a very unhealthy manner. I beat my body to a pulp and exercised in ways that were not actually conducive and healthy for my physical being. I remember there was a 90-day window where I rigorously did hard, intense cardio workouts every single day, and your body's not made for that. It's so unhealthy. And, when I was in that Beachbody coaching business, again, I loved that experience. It was a huge stepping stone in getting me to where I am. And I remember early on in my coaching business, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how are these people so successful with this? Like, what are they doing? And I started paying attention, and every single one of them that was in my line of coaches, they all read the Bible. And I had never, other than being at church as a little kid, like just flipping through the Bible because you're bored listening to the pastor, I'd never looked at a Bible. I never read the Bible. So I picked one up. I ordered one because, the ego in me had to make sure, well, if I'm going to get a Bible, it's going to be pretty. And so I got this beautiful Bible with a nice canvas cover. It's just a glorious, honestly, I got it right here. I'll show you because it's so beautiful. It's just
That is beautiful.
so good. Like the picture of it, when I saw it, I had to get it. then I actually started reading it. And I didn't know how to read the Bible. So I tried to read just, like a book. And I was like, this is not going to keep my attention. There's no way. So then I did a couple of Bible studies, and holy cow, hearing myself read these words, but feeling the spiritual energy attached to it, it was just, there was no words. There's no words to really, truly explain it. And it scared me. It scared me so much to feel that in that capacity, because I thought I was crazy. I literally thought, you are a nut job. Nobody's going to believe you that you can feel the spirit, that you can talk to Jesus. Like, nobody was going to believe me. So then I was like, stepped aside a little bit, continue on other routes. And it just, every route's always cycled me back. Always cycled me back. We go around the mountain, around the mountain, around the mountain, and I always come back to that one thing. And it's that communication, and it's that connection, and that belief, and that faith, and that trust in not only in the world around me, but in myself, knowing that every time I've come back around, it's been because I asked for help. I asked for guidance. I sought support from the world around me on an emotional and on an energetic level. And this is what it dumped in my lap every single time.
I love that. I felt that so much. And, I still don't know how to read the Bible. I mean, there's scriptures, there's so many things that can help you, right? So like, there's so many resources out there that you can use. And I love to help people be resourceful, because there's always a way to do it. I could figure it out, and that's the joy in it. But it's not just about reading it, it's about feeling it. And for most of my life, I was raised Catholic. I still practice the Catholic faith. But whether I didn't engage or there just wasn't an opportunity created for me at all times. Like, I know there were opportunities. I was the worst student in the religion class. I was not nice to my teachers. I questioned them. I berated them. I said no. It was basically when a teacher at one point told me that my mom wasn't an angel. I was pissed. My mom died when I was 4 in a car accident, and everyone in my life tried to protect me, and she's in heaven and she's an angel, and someone told me that. And so part of this conversation that Chelsey and I are doing is to let you know that and that brought tears to my eyes, because I've also been told by a priest that I'm like the worst person in the world. What does that make you want to do with your faith? And just knowing that no matter what religion, no matter what your belief is, there will be people who say things or do things that aren't in alignment with who you are and what's truth. And there will be people who do and say things that breathe the most magical things in your life. And this is the work. And yes, like, you don't talk about it. I mean, I had some very spiritual experiences over the last 2 years, and I haven't really talked about it a whole lot, other than in very safe spaces with you, with other healers, because my Catholic religion doesn't accept some of those things. And I just, am so passionate about being close to the Holy Spirit that I'm hungry for this now. And it is important to notice what ways the devil may be tempting you, for sure. But this is all part of the conversation that's going to continue over the next several weeks, and maybe longer. We'll see how it goes. Chelsey and I, yeah.
I feel it. I definitely feel that this is, and even if nobody shows up, they're going to show up, because it's just meant to be. And if it doesn't, I love talking about it so much. Mm-hmm. I really do. Like you said, having safe people that really, it doesn't matter what they believe, they're going to hear you. And, I remember at one point working with a business coach and being told that everything I've taught you is demonic, it's wrong, don't do that. Instant fear. And that fear, I was just like, what do you mean? Like, this is working for me, these methods, this approach, these things. And then to be told that, well, you can't read the Bible and do those things at the same time. And I'm like, why? Because to me, God created all of it. And if you can find him in those spaces that other people can't understand, that doesn't make it wrong. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you, possessed. It doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you sinful in that way. It awakens you. It opens you up. It becomes a way of becoming aware of that connection we have to God. So many of us have grown up where God only exists in the church on Sunday when we go, and they struggle, and I know in my schooling that I'm doing right now, one of the things my professor says is, if your God is that holy, why isn't he showing up? And it's not that God isn't, it's that we're not, as humans, we're not opening ourselves up. We're not allowing him.
Allowing, yes.
We don't see that value, that ability, and that worth within ourselves. We're so hard and so condemning on ourselves, and it's not our fault. That's a result of the programming that we've received from our childhood, from parenting, from authority figures, from, organized religion does it. And it's got to change. It's got to shift. People need to realize that what happened to them was not their fault. And it's okay to acknowledge that hurt, but the life you're living, staying stuck in it and staying in that victimhood, you're blocking yourself from that true heaven on earth, blissful, euphoric, amazing life that you can have, that's at your disposal, literally at the snap of a finger, if you allow it. So
Chelsey and I we do a lot of the same things. We help people in some of the same ways, and we both have this passion to just create this experience in everyone. Not create it, it's already there. Like crack the code, help someone open up to it. As reading something, and I wish I was trying to pull it up on my phone, but it's like the Israelites spent 40 years in the desert. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like God had already saved them, but their mentality was still that, he's not going to save us. And so it's what we do in creating a hell on earth is that he's already forgiven you. He's already saved you. But if we don't open ourselves up and allow that to come in, you will continue to feel like something is missing forever in your life. And so I feel like, one of the other, things we were going to talk about today is like, what did you find was that thing for you, and how did you personally feel it? And I think for both of us, it was the faith.
Yeah.
And that can be looked at several different ways, right? Like before I called it faith, I started practicing gratitude. And like that is a connection to something that is so life-giving. So there's many versions of it. So the word faith, or religion, or sometimes God can scare people. But it's really about cracking that code, because it's all within you, and we seek it so much, so heavily from everyone else. And then also something you said that resonated with me was that, you told people what they wanted to hear. Like I will tell, I would go in an interview, like I'll say whatever they want to hear. I know that I'm smart. I'm really good at that. I'm really good at the BS game. And I did it my whole entire life, whether you call it lying or pulling the truth or whatever, but it's like, I can read, like, I know what people want to hear. And I say that to conform.
Yep.
And so I've had to undo so much of that. Whereas stop telling people what they want to hear. Like, what do you need to hear? And what are you hearing? I never stopped to listen to that message within myself.
Absolutely. And it makes so much sense too, when you talk about, it was faith that is ultimately what brought it up in you, and it started filling that void and bringing you that something that was missing. It was that faith. And looking back over my experience and how I got here, I knew it was faith. I absolutely knew it. And there's testament to that, because I researched and I learned about the Tao. I learned about the Quran. I learned about the Christianity. I learned about Catholicism. I learned about all sorts of different, every kind of religion. Not every, that's exaggerating, but I did study and research and really look into all of these different religions, because I thought, they're all trying to do the same thing. So what is it? What is it? And all of them, every single one of them, it boils down to love. It boils down to loving yourself, loving each other, and really walking in the way that Christ did. And it's not just Christ, it's Buddha. He did the same thing. It's, all of these different things, and finding that common ground. And instead of separating us all in that I'm this religion, oh, you do that, that means you're demonic. We separate everyone, all you're creating is tension. And when you can find that common ground between every single thing, you get a pretty clear picture that love's already won. And this battle that we're fighting, this spiritual kind of warfare that's going on, it's literally a war between your ego and your highest self. And you are with yourself. It's not outside of you. It's not, you die in physical form and go to the depths of fiery hell. Maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't died. It could be that. And if that's your belief, I'd love to talk about it. Ultimately, though, where we're all at right now is we're humans in physical form, and the battle we're fighting is against ourselves.
Absolutely. I did a video, a training not long ago about how we create hell on earth, right? And it's that, believing in that fear and not speaking our truth, and, not opening ourselves up to the things that are already there in front of us. And I love that you studied so many different religions. And growing up Catholic, I put myself in this box, right? Like a Catholic nurse, like, this is your study. This is how it goes. I didn't question, I just did. You go, you're like a robot almost. And then when I started questioning, I of course got feedback or kickback, like, no, you just do, you don't question. And I'm not asking people to like question the church, question your religion. But I think it's so important to understand it fully and to see things from a different perspective, right? I see so many Christians who judge so harshly and deeply the people who are not like them, yet Jesus tells us that the judging isn't our job, right? And so I loved this talk, Chelsey. I think we could go on for hours and hours. We want to make sure that this is very intentional for all of you. And so that's why we created a 4-part series. That's why this is not the end of the conversation. So if you enjoyed this, or you're like, oh my gosh, I had this happen to me, I need to talk to these ladies, please comment, send us a private message. Let us know what you're feeling, what you're hearing, what you're resonating with in all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And along with all of that too, when we look at the religious teachings, when we look at scripture, Jesus doesn't actually answer that many questions. He asks substantially more questions than he answers. Yeah. And if that isn't a testament to what we should be doing as humans, when we're questioning things, we're not saying that they're wrong. We're just seeking understanding. We're trying to put into words that make sense to us, because we all understand things differently. When you look at, taking things to a science route, we have different brain operations. We have people that are neurotypical, and that's how a lot of people are. And then we have neurodivergent, and the functions of the brain and how we interpret that information, it's different for everyone. So if we can figure out how to ask questions without getting defensive, and then how to answer questions without projecting our beliefs and forcing it on someone, we've already created a huge foundation of healing within the collective. So I appreciate doing this with you. I'm so excited to see what comes in the next couple of weeks and where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's been fun. And so since Chelsey and I are life coaches, she's probably okay with me doing this, but I'd like to leave you all with a curiosity, right? Like, be curious. My husband used to play this game with his friends, like, how long will it take for Helen to not ask a question? Because and my husband would say, like, if you just waited 2 seconds, you'd get your answer. And while yes, many of my questions were not necessary, I am a curious person, and people though could take that the wrong way, including myself, right? Like, people question me about things I'm strong about and I get defensive. You need to look at that. So if you're getting defensive when someone asks you a question, take a closer peek. Also, practice curiosity this week in whatever it is you're doing. Your life will start to change. And as life coaches, we ask a lot of questions. That's what we do. We don't give people the answers, which is what some people think of life coaches. We ask questions, and that's important to us so that we can help others learn and grow. So next week, we're going to dive deeper into these places where we felt like something was missing and into what exactly it was that worked for us individually. So we started sharing a little bit about this, but there's different ways that it worked for us. And we want to share that with you. And we also want you to be sharing with us as well. So whether you are watching this live or whether you watch the replay, please be in touch with us. And we'd love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.